Republican gubernatorial candidate Charles Herbster owns properties in 6 states. He runs businesses in Nebraska, Missouri, and Minnesota.
He charters flights with close advisors of former President Donald Trump, and he also has a habit of paying his property taxes late, sometimes very late.
Herbster already knew that 3 News Now investigators were digging into his past when he announced his run to be Nebraska's next governor, so he raised the issue himself.
Here's what 3 News Now investigator Aaron Sandiford found.
Nebraska gubernatorial candidate Charles Herbster owns agribusinesses in several states. Part of his pitch is a plan to lower your property taxes, but he hasn't always paid his, at least not on time.
I know what it is to pay your land taxes late.
Here's what he said in April.
I'm sure I'm the only one here that's ever paid their taxes late. Okay, I know what it is, but let me share something with you. I always paid it. Many times it was really, really late. I paid a 14% interest rate. I paid the penalties.
What Herbster didn't say was how often he and some of his businesses have been late, around 600 times over the past 2 decades, based on county property records from at least 6 states. No place has seen more of those late payments than Richardson County, Nebraska. 3 News Now identified 29 properties Herbster and his companies own where he grew up. It's where he operates Herbster Angus Farms. Records show he and his privately held companies have paid property taxes late at least 529 times there since the mid-1990s. The Richardson County Treasurer's Office in Falls City confirmed late payments from the past decade and showed us where we could check the rest. The owners of about 600 of the county's 10,000 properties pay their taxes late in a given year. The Nebraska Association of County Officials, which represents county treasurers, says fewer than 1 in 10 properties statewide pay late in a given year. John Cannon, the group's executive director, set the number at about 4 to 7%. Around 2% wait so long they risk more than a penalty.
The potential is that it could go to a tax sale, which means that an investor or some other person comes in and pays that principal amount, and after 3 years, if they don't redeem it at the 14% interest, then they could lose their property.
Paying late hits local governments and schools too.
The political subdivisions that, when they set up their budget and they say, well, here's the value we have to levy against, that's going to leave a little bit of a hole in their budget too. So the political subdivisions are going to be affected as well.
Herbster and his firms have also paid late in other states, including taxes on property in Virginia, Iowa, and a $500,000 house in Kansas City he describes as a guest home. He nearly lost 2 properties in Colorado for being years late paying his 2008 property taxes. Unfiled paperwork by a buyer at a tax sale let him hold on to it in 2013. One place Herbster has never been late is his $1.5 million condo on the Omaha riverfront. That's where Herbster's campaign says he spends many nights. Conklin, Herbster's best-known company, owns the condo and pays its taxes on time. In May, the Richardson County Treasurer's Office confirmed our reporting that many of Herbster's local properties had been late as recently as 2018. That contradicted how Herbster described the problems before. He had blamed the late payments on several years of cash flow problems he ran into after buying the Conklin Company from its family owners in the 1990s. He now says those problems lasted at least 2 decades, and that new ones reared their head when his wife Judy, who helped run his companies, died.
I was convinced that we could turn the company around in 5 years. It took us 20 years, so it took us 4 times longer than I planned. And those were difficult times, and it was difficult most of the 29 years we owned the business till about the last 5 to 7 years. All of our work and all of our effort finally started to pay off.
He says he made a conscious choice to pay his property taxes late, and he wouldn't sell land to pay his taxes. He says he promised his grandma he wouldn't.
I always voted for making sure our people were safe, and I figured out I'll do the best I can with my property tax when I can. I think the most important thing is they were all paid. I always paid my property tax, even though they were late. I paid a significant high interest rate, much higher than you could have got at the bank, but when you owed as much money as I could, you couldn't borrow anything at the bank. It really didn't hurt anybody except me. It didn't hurt the county because they actually had a good investment at a high interest rate of money. And I think I would answer it in this way and say that if I had to do it over today, I would do the same thing I did, because there wasn't one distributor or one employee that ever got their check late.
In 2014, Herbster was late on more than $36,000 in Richardson County property taxes. That same year, he gave Nebraska gubernatorial candidate Bo McCoy nearly $2 million for his run. We asked Herbster how he found the money to donate millions to political candidates, including former President Donald Trump, but paid his taxes late.
I'm always going to choose people first. And so I was going to do everything possible when they asked me for help. I guess probably maybe my number one mistake in my life is it's hard for me to say no.
Herbster's highest profile opponent in the Republican primary for governor, University of Nebraska Regent Jim Pillen, declined to comment. So did State Senator Brett Lindstrom of Omaha, who is mulling a run. Governor Pete Ricketts, who has criticized Herbster before, also declined. Many Nebraska Republicans we spoke with said they were wary of taking sides in a GOP primary, a primary that Herbster could win. Jane Klebb, the Nebraska Democratic Party's chairwoman, said Republicans appear afraid of their base, which backs Trump and might like Herbster. She said Herbster's cavalier attitude about his taxes offers Democrats an opening in 2022, once they get a capable candidate into the race.
And I'm sorry, but you don't get a break. You have paid your property taxes late more than 500 times. That is a pattern. That is a habit. It is an indicator that you're unfit for office. It means that we can't trust you.
You know, I think you've got all types of people across this state. And there are many people who did everything perfectly, did it by the book, and I applaud those individuals. But as a governor, I also have a huge understanding for those people that couldn't do it and couldn't make it. And unless you've walked in those shoes, you just don't get it.
Aaron Sandiford, 3 News Now.
Aaron spoke with several Republicans who told him off camera they do not believe Herbster was late because he needed money to pay his employees. They pointed to other spending that could have been cut, including those donations that he mentioned.